Lock her up. And him. And him. And her. And her. Honestly, she should be locked up. Hillary Clinton. It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country. Donald Trump? Because you'd be in jail. The corruption of our government is not limited to politicians and their families enriching themselves while supposedly serving their country. No, the corruption in D.C. had spread under the Obama and Clinton administrations cancer-like to the leading law enforcement and intelligence agencies in the land. Donald Trump called out this corruption and criminality as well. In what was one of the most stunning moments in American political history, at least in the lifetime of anyone living today, Donald Trump uttered those words, "because you'd be in jail," to his opponent Hillary Clinton during a nationally televised debate watched by millions. What many neutral observers and opponents of Trump viewed as either another example of his lowbrow, classless humor, or the type of threat to jail one's political opponent on trumped-up charges which we Americans normally associate with tin pot dictators of third world countries was, in reality, neither. In the mind of Donald Trump, he was, quite simply, revealing the emperor's nakedness. He was telling the truth. Trump was serious, deadly so. Everything about his behavior then and since indicates he was sincere. He was telling the truth, and judging from the crowd's reaction, he was not alone. Trump had said, as he did the entire campaign, that which could not be said. Trump, along with many Americans at the time, and quite likely many more since, believed that Mrs. Clinton was part of a corrupt Washington establishment that had broken laws of the United States and gotten away with it on more than one occasion. Previously dismissed by mainstream media outlets as the fevered imaginings of some, to use Clinton's words from the past regarding opponents of her husband, vast right-wing conspiracy, events during the 2016 campaign and since have put the lie to that notion. Oh, don't misunderstand us. The mainstream media continues to try and dismiss the allegations, but it is more difficult to do that when so much evidence has been revealed. The Clinton email scandal. Specifically, Trump was quite likely referring to the Clinton email server scandal, the details of which have been revealed through the first Inspector General's report, not the more recent one dealing with Spygate, and which, before that report dropped, were neatly summarized by a series of 5 videos produced by journalist John Spiropoulos, which feature key testimony by Comey before a House Oversight Committee. You should watch them all. At the heart of the Clinton email scandal lies the undisputed fact that she had a private server set up at her home in Chappaqua, New York, later moved to a New Jersey location, that she used for government business, including communications which were classified. That act alone, in and of itself, is illegal, a crime. She knew the rules against doing so, or at least should have, as she was briefed on them and had been in and around government for, well, a long time. Simple common sense would dictate that she would know such a setup was ill-advised and illegal. Later, FBI Director James Comey would say that no reasonable prosecutor would bring charges against Clinton for her actions concerning the illegal server. He had it wrong. The truth is that no reasonable person with Clinton's experience would fail to know that such a setup was ill-advised and illegal, and, contra Comey, no reasonable prosecutor would fail to bring charges against most anyone else who engaged in such behavior, which kind of gets to the heart of the question. Special treatment and unequal treatment under the law. Partisans of Mrs. Clinton can try to minimize the importance of such a transgression, perhaps using a species of Hillary's infamous after-the-fact dismissal of questions about the reasons for the Benghazi disaster. At this point, what difference does it make? But they are wrong. They are probably lying, as one suspects they know the truth deep down, but at the very least they are wrong. Do we have a crime yet? As the video shows, she denied in testimony that government secrets were involved, claiming that there was no classified material transmitted. In his own later testimony, James Comey said there was, in fact, such information, some of it with the highest classification possible. Somebody is lying. Do we have a crime yet? Specifically, Comey said in his testimony that 110 emails in 52 chains were determined to contain classified information at the time. He gave further details. 8 were top secret, 36 secret at the time, and 8 confidential. Many more were upgraded to classified, about 2,000. When these facts came out, the woman whom many thought should be our president changed her story, asserting that none were marked classified. Comey himself noted that that was not true, but that even if certain documents are not marked classified, individuals with that level of security clearance are still obligated to know what is and is not classified to protect the information. Do we have a crime yet? In a well-remembered moment from the campaign of 2016, Comey on national television announced that Clinton would not be charged. But he did so in the strangest way possible. For one thing, for the FBI director to call such a press conference to make the announcement was unusual in and of itself. And for another, as everyone likely remembers, he essentially outlined the case for the prosecution and said there was evidence, presumably of chargeable behavior. But that, although there was evidence, it was their judgment, begs the question who they are, that in one of the lines for which he will be remembered in history, no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case. Comey was wrong when he said that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case, as later revelations would make clear. Trump was right when he would chant along with his fans, "Lock her up." Granted, many of his supporters were perhaps driven by nothing so much as long-harbored animus against Mrs. Clinton and her husband. But the stark truth is that the average American at the time had no idea how bad things truly were. The fix was in. The entire investigation into the Hillary Clinton private server email scandal was a fraud. From beginning to end, the ultimate result was a foregone conclusion. The only question for the corrupt individuals directing it was how to get there. Among the evidence for that assertion is the fact that Comey had drafted his speech exonerating Clinton months before, 2 months before in fact, sharing it with others on May 2nd. This was even before numerous significant witnesses were interviewed. Once other members of the FBI's leadership, including Andrew McCabe, saw Comey's draft, the language describing her actions was changed from Comey's original grossly negligent, which are the very words used in the statute identifying such behavior as a crime, to extremely careless. Why was that done? Common sense tells us that it was done to better sweep the entire affair under the rug. Perhaps the most impassioned questioning of James Comey on the subject of the private server was done by William Hurd, a Republican from Texas. A former CIA undercover agent himself, Hurd knows the importance of protecting classified information, sources, and methods. Asked by Hurd why no charges were brought, Comey said that 2 things need to be present: mishandling and criminal intent. In saying so, James Comey, director of the FBI, misrepresented the truth. Intent has nothing to do with it in these matters. Hurd, incredulous at what he was hearing, asked if not bringing charges was the unanimous opinion among those on the case. Comey said it was so among the team of agents, investigators, analysts, technologists, yes. Such an assertion, again, begs the question, who made up the team? At least the team that ultimately decided. That is an interesting question, and what is even more interesting is the fact that the team that by and large protected Mrs. Clinton would turn out to have some of the same players that later tried to take down President Trump with the Russian hoax, a group which certainly has lived up to the old coach's cliche about the word team standing for total effort amongst many. These characters certainly gave their all, both to protect Hillary and to destroy Donald. Other astonishing facts about the mishandling of the investigation by the team came out during Comey's testimony. In the video, Tom Marino, Republican from Pennsylvania, asked him, one former prosecutor to another, why no grand jury was impaneled as, in his experience, that is the best way to gather evidence and, when needed, compel testimony, with the threat of being held in contempt and going to jail, serving as encouragement to the witnesses to be forthcoming. Why was not standard prosecutorial practice followed in this investigation? Failure to call a grand jury was far from the only irregularity in this cover-up, however. Cheryl Mills and Heather Samuelson, Hillary's lawyers and potential witnesses for crying out loud, sat in on her interview with members of the team. As John Ratcliffe, Republican from Texas, noted, allowing central witnesses in a case to sit in on the interview of the subject of a criminal investigation never happens. Not even on TV. Occam's razor tells us the fix was in. Missing evidence. Any good cover-up needs evidence to be covered up, and in this sordid affair of Hillary Clinton's private server, there was no shortage of potential evidence that went missing. For us Catholics, the list reads like a litany of criminality. Original Apple server, missing. Laptops, missing. Thumb drive, missing. Blackberries with SIM cards, missing. 13 mobile devices lost, discarded, or destroyed with a hammer. You read that right. You read that right. 2 iPads, missing. Various server backups, missing. Copies of emails from Clinton to Mills and Samuelson, missing. Not only were they missing, they had been wiped clean with BleachBit after they were subpoenaed. As an aside, Congressman Trey Gowdy was quoted as saying she and her lawyers had those emails deleted. And they didn't just push the delete button, they had them deleted where even God can't read them. They were using something called BleachBit. You don't use BleachBit for yoga emails or bridesmaids emails. When you're using BleachBit, it is something you really do not want the world to see. Email archive from Platée River Network, missing. It had been deleted. Backups of server, missing. They had also been deleted.